let's get into analyzing. I think it has to do a lot with the sexual tension in Die Hard. You see, the movie is called Die Hard. Why is it called Die Hard? I think it's because Bruce Willis doesn't want to die horny. Otherwise, they never mention Die Hard in the movie. So we have to assume that Bruce Willis is just super horny. He has a huge boner throughout the movie, and this motivates him to kill the terrorists, so that he can bang his wife, Holly Grenado. And that's why there's an unbelievable amount of sexual tension in Die Hard. It's totally obvious that Bruce Willis is super horny. It's almost so obvious you can't miss it. Even an idiot like me could feel the sexual tension in Die Hard. Why is it so obvious that Bruce Willis is super horny? I don't know, but I thought I would try to explain it using some scientific theories. That's right, this show got a whole lot more scientific. The first theory we're gonna use is called the male gaze. It was created by a feminist researcher called Laura Mulvey. This theory basically says that cinema is portrayed out of a male gaze, and the world is viewed in a male perspective, and so are women. That's why all women in cinema are objectified by men. Just take a look at these examples from Die Hard. Number 1. Bruce Willis stares at a steward hostess. He even turns around to look once more. Example number 2. Bruce Willis stares at a lady in the airport. Example number 3. The first time they see each other, there's a horny look in their eyes. Number 4. Bruce Willis looks closely at a nude picture of women. Are you convinced yet? Well, here's another example just in case. Bruce Willis looks at the same poster with naked women again, just to make sure we understand exactly how horny Bruce Willis is in Die Hard. Why is Bruce Willis so horny, you ask? Well, it's because he hasn't seen his wife in 6 months, and he's been very faithful to her. He even mentioned this to his limo driver early in the movie, to make sure we as a viewer understand just how much Bruce Willis wants to bone his wife, Holly Grenado.
Your friends have to trot. Know a few mama bears we can hook up with. Or is he married?
He's married.
Okay. So your lady live out here?
About the past 6 months.
Meaning you still live in New York?
This gives Bruce Willis proper motivation to stop the terrorists. Nothing can get between a horny man and his wife, not even a bunch of German terrorists wanting to steal some money. Now we could argue that Die Hard is based on an ancient story about a prince who has to save a princess in a tower from like a dragon or something. This is of course an ancient story that has been told throughout the ages. Now, the Hollywood producers just took a classic and placed it in a modern context. Instead of a tower, it's a tall building called the Naga Naga building or something. And instead of a dragon, it's a bunch of German terrorists led by Alan Snakeman. It's a pretty smart movie if you ask me. Everyone remembers the story from when they were young, and it's told in a modern way. Kinda like that new Romeo and Juliet movie was the same story in a new modern context. It was a great movie, but the movie was fucking boring as shit. Whilst Die Hard has a lot of action. That's why everyone loves Die Hard so much. Anyway, the thing about the Princess in the Tower story is that it's the horniness that drives the hero forward. He wants to marry the princess. And in the olden days, married was the same thing as fucking. But only you can't say that these days. You have to imply that we're gonna fuck. You have to imply that Bruce Willis is gonna bone his wife later on. That's why the movie ends with a kiss. It doesn't end with a huge love scene. Because then Die Hard wouldn't be a film for the whole family. It would just be for grown-ups. And that's much worse. When you're a Hollywood executive, you want the movie to reach as many people as possible. But you also don't want to make a movie just for kids. You want there to be sexual tension that all the grown-ups can enjoy. That's why you have to imply sex, and hide sexy subliminal messages throughout the movie. The kiss is much better. It's just implied. This doesn't really show anything. But anyway, what drives Bruce Willis is his horniness. The only thing motivating him. Now, I don't know if this is a good motivation or way to move the plot forward, but it's alright. At least it's better than the other Die Hard movies. The sexual tension drives the movie forward and makes it so it feels like there's something more than just a bunch of terrorists getting shot at, which the other Die Hard movies is about. It's not perfect, it's alright. But there's an unbelievable amount of sexual tension. It's almost comedic how much sexual tension there is in Die Hard 1. Maybe we're kinda joking around with it, I don't know. All I know is it kinda works. It's kinda so ridiculous, it just works. Thank God Laura Mulvey didn't see Die Hard. Because then I think she would have overdosed on feminism. There's a lot of male gazing in Die Hard. Bruce Willis is constantly looking at women in objectifying ways. But that's true for a lot of action movies. They all objectify women because they're primarily made for men in the late 40s who just got left by their wives and family. Please come back, Susan. Anyhow, I'm not saying the male gaze is a good thing, but it's there. It's infiltrated Hollywood to the very top, and we will never, ever get rid of it. And in some ways, I think the male gaze makes Die Hard a better movie. The sexual tension is great for lonely guys like me, because without the sexual tension there would be no Die Hard. To me it's pretty obvious that Bruce Willis is just a guy who's really, really horny. That's why he's constantly looking at women, touching posters, and so on. Without knowing it, we're rooting for him to bone his wife for the holidays. And that's why he's so motivated to kill the terrorist attacking the Nagatomo building. All Bruce Willis wants to do is to get laid. He really, really wants to get laid. That's why he doesn't hesitate to kill the terrorist to save his wife. Because it's the only way he will ever get laid. And that's why I would kinda make an exception for the male gaze in this one. It's not alright, but it's there. The only thing driving Die Hard forward is Bruce Willis' super horniness towards Holly Granado. I'm not saying this is a great premise, but I can sort of understand it. And that's why the first Die Hard is so much better than the others. Because of the sexual tension. There just isn't a sexual tension in Die Hard 2. Or 3. And don't even get me started on 5 or 4. Because they all fucking suck. I mean, there might be a little tension in Die Hard 3 between Samuel Jackson and Bruce Willis. But not as much. Thanks to the sexual tension of Die Hard, it kinda elevates the movie to another level compared to the other Die Hard movies or other action movies. It's why there feels like there's sort of a bigger story behind it all, because you want Bruce Willis to meet his wife in the ending. Otherwise it would just be a mindless, endless killing of terrorists, which I guess it sort of is. But the sexual tension and you wanting them to get together elevates the movie to another level. It's why Die Hard 1 is better than the others in my opinion. And this is all portrayed in the male gaze, of course. But, as I said, I would make an exception. Anyway, on to the next scientific theory. This review is kinda becoming longer than I expected. So I'm gonna talk about the second theory really quickly. The second theory I want to talk about is called masculinity. You see, in the late 80s and 90s, the feminist film theory kind of evolved into masculinity film theory or something. I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think it goes something like this. Male actors in cinema wanted to portray the perfect man. That's why male actors always were kind of buff and always had their shirt off. Basically it was competition on who was the hottest man in Hollywood and who has the biggest dick competition. But of course they couldn't show their dick in movies. So instead they used an object to portray their phallus. It could be something like a sword or a gun or a tool. Of course this falls in line with the male gaze, but it's more about which man looks best, I guess. Anyway, this could be applied to Die Hard in several ways, and I guess it could be applied to any movie ever made. Anyhow, Bruce Willis doesn't really have his shirt off until the end, but it does use a lot of tools. Some could be interpreted as very phallic. For example, he uses a giant hose to get down from the roof. A little on the nose, don't you think?
You're very perceptive.
He also shoots with guns, and so on. The point is that these things also add to the sexual tension. A masculine man using a giant weapon, or a giant hose, and so on. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is that Die Hard is a pretty smart movie. It appealed to a mass audience thanks to its sexual tension, kinda like that old show The Gladiators. The Gladiators appealed to families because the kids liked the action, and they also liked Die Hard because of the action. The parents also might like the action, but they also get kind of caught up in the sexual tension. Watching The Gladiators. Fit, well-trained men and women fighting each other. Sounds like a lot of sexual tension if you ask me. Kinda like Die Hard. Now, I'm not saying I get super horny when I watch Die Hard. All I'm saying is that sexual messages are so obvious, you have to notice them and speak about them. And they also make the movie kind of great. Kinda like The Gladiators is an okay show thanks to the sexual tension. I mean, did you ever notice none of the gladiators are really wearing any clothes? And that's only to add to the sexual tension of the program. But that doesn't mean you get super horny when you watch it. It's just in the back of your mind. You don't really notice it, but it's there. Kinda like Die Hard. That's why I think Die Hard's kind of a smart movie. They don't show any lovemaking scenes or any sex scenes, but there's implied sex. The kiss in the end tells they're going home to bang probably. You don't know it, but you think it, and that sells. Sex sells, even if it's just a subliminal message. Anyway, that's probably it for this review. Sorry it became a little longer than I expected. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much, and have a Die Hard Christmas. Goodbye. I love Die Hard.